Zooey mama. Oh, wait. Hey, yo, shout out to Doc D. How's it going, you guys? We got our second edition of Buy or Bust today, where we're going to be going over Gorr the God Butcher. Let's go ahead and jump right into what Gorr does. I'm going to give you guys 3 decks. We got a cat on screen as well. Give you some key synergies. And as always, the deck codes will be down in the description below. All right, so in case you guys did not know, Gorr is the brand new Series 5 card that is coming to Spotlights on Tuesday. It's going to be November 26th through December 3rd. And it is an ongoing get +2 power for each unrevealed card in play, which counts your side of the board, your opponent's side of the board. Here's a prime example of what Gorr does. As you can see, there's a lot of unrevealed cards on the board, so Gorr's power is absolutely massive. You can also see with the animation, this card is incredible. I'm telling you guys right now, Blob released last December and took over the meta. This is another one of those cards can absolutely take over the meta. The same kind of sense as Blob 2. It is going to be a big card. That's what happens like every single time we have a brand new 6-cost card, is that it just literally takes over the meta. We also will have this card out for almost 2 weeks before the next patch / OTA, so definitely see this card everywhere. But let's go over some goods and some bads, of course, when it comes to Gorr the God Butcher as well as the key synergies. So like the first thing we have with the key synergies over here is going to be Ravona. It is a card that has -1 power. So that makes this card automatically a 5-cost card with the energy cheat, because Ravona interacts with any card that has 0 or less power. So it works absolutely incredible with this card to allow you to be able to maybe even do some Taskmaster things. Of course, you're probably thinking more Ravona with like Mr. Negative, where like Mr. Negative with Gorr the God Butcher, you know, it makes him a 0-cost card, 6 power. So we have a 6 base power going into the Mr. Negative swap. And then Thanos. You guys may not have thought Thanos. Why would Thanos be like a synergistic card? Thanos has 4 out of 5 Infinity Stones that have an on reveal. If you have all of those on the board, Gorr himself then gets 8 power just from your stones. And we're gonna have a really fun Thanos list that we're gonna be talking about as well. But of course, this card is a big card. It has a lot of key stats. It has a lot of stuff going good for it. There's got to be counters for it. And I'm starting off with Shang-Chi, of course. Shang-Chi, this card gets above 10 power. It just gets freaking yoinked by, or not yoinked, but absolutely yeeted by Shang-Chi over here. We have Enchantress. It's ongoing. It's not an on reveal, so it is not a power that is a brand new permanent power. So Enchantress takes away Mr. Gorr and makes Mr. Gorr a -1 power. And then, of course, Rogue. Rogue is that yoink card I was talking about, which can take away the ongoing ability that you get with Gorr. And then, of course, the good and the bad. So here's the good, though. It's a very high ceiling because there are so many different on-reveal cards in the game. Even if your opponent plays out a couple, you're surely running more on-reveal cards in your own list to be able to boost Gorr, since it is a interactive ongoing. It accounts your side of the board and your opponent's, kind of just like Ajax does as well. So it's incredible there for you. Then, of course, there is a power slam, so you don't necessarily know, or your opponent may not necessarily know how much power Gorr is going to be. You have to assume Gorr all the time now, which is going to be very interesting to see. Kind of like with Blob, it's harder to count for Blob, but with Gorr maybe it's a little bit easier. And that's why I make the comparison, because remember, OG Blob got up to like 40 power or more, and that was even like prior to Airshim things. Could you imagine with Airshim how big Blob could get? Sheesh. And I think it is super flexible. Like, it is a 6-drop you can kind of put into a lot of different shells just to have a good top end. You don't necessarily have to build around Gorr, because there's a lot of other cards in the game that are just already on reveals. So like, it really makes sense to kind of, maybe you do have a lot of on reveals if you want a truly Gorr heavy list, or just you have him as your top end, like it would be like an Alioth, or it would be for like a Dr. Doom. But you may be fighting more for priority in that sense to make sure you can get the Gorr ability down. If not, he is going to be the -1, which is one of the prime examples too. The on reveals must be in play. If your opponent's not playing any on reveals, and let's say they're playing a Tribunal and maybe they don't have any of that stuff, maybe it's just like the Sarah ongoing shenanigans, you know, Gorr has no power. He's literally a -1. He has to have on reveals to enable what's going on. And like, there is the predictableness too. You know, your opponents can count how many on reveals are on the board. They can count on your side, their side, to see how big Gorr would be, and just like, see if Gorr's played here, I'll play it somewhere else. If Gorr's played there, I'll play somewhere else. So just, you're able to kind of just see the lines. I feel like with this card, opposed to like the Blob interaction, you don't know necessarily how big Blob was going to get. You just had to kind of calculate, I need to throw this much power here. There's no way they get that big, right? So you got to keep that in mind. And then if you don't have the ramp, or you don't have energy cheat, you don't have a Ravona, you don't have a wave or like a hope, this card on turn 6 is the only thing you can play, unless you have some other stuff going for you. So you got to keep that in mind. Those are like the potential bads I was thinking of. There wasn't anything like super like jarring at me. Let me know if you guys have something way more bad or more jarring that I didn't think of, because I'm down to just hear more ideas about the card. Now, looking at the floor and the ceiling of this card as well. Baseline, 0 on reveals on the board. You get Shang-Chi maybe. Gorr does nothing. But if there's 0 on reveals, Gorr is a -1 powered card. Literally just dead. Just dead on the board. Maybe it helps you win Borrow No Name. Other than that, dead. Deceased. Absolutely just not a chance. It's not necessarily viable, but this isn't going to happen. Like, this is a worst case scenario. There's not really going to be an instance, unless you literally have the worst draws ever, where Gorr does not see a single on reveal on the board. Like, that is the absolute worst for this card. It is going to be pretty competitive, I do think, though. But ceiling-wise, if there are, 23 other cards on the board that are all on reveals, Gorr can be a 645, which that's really good, really premium stats. Not really going to happen, probably like ever, but it's not impossible. Not impossible. But I think like realistically, I think Gorr is going to have at least 4 to 8 different on reveals on the board. So he's going to be at least a 6-7 or a 6-15. That is like still medium low end. Maybe that's more of the floor. But 6-15 is good. That's better than a Magneto. Your downside is when your opponent had to have on reveals on the board. It's still more than a Hulk. It's still less than Infinite, less than a Red Hulk that's been procced twice. But I still think that is really solid. You don't really have to do a whole lot of work. You're kind of still just playing the game to be able to play Gorr. So I think that's pretty reasonable, I would say. And then I have a couple decks. Okay, the first deck I have for us over here is going to be Reveal the Gauntlet. So what we have going on over here is, of course, we have all the stones. So we have 5 different stones from Thanos. 4 of them are on reveal, so that's an additional 8 power for Gorr. We also have some ramp. With this ramp, we're trying to either get Gorr out early, or maybe some of our bigger cards, our top end, to give us some scar value. We can play stuff onto Hope Summers as well to be able to ramp out cards. We're using Black Swan for like a final turn potential Stone Slam as well, with some Thanos things. Potentially with some scar things. It really just depends on what curve you have. This, of course, is more of a rough draft. I think we're going to get a new fine-tuned iteration of Thanos that I'll be probably doing on stream. But this is kind of what we have going on. We have Blob as well. We have Blob and Gorr in the same list in case you don't draw all your stones and stuff. You have Rogue for the other opponents that are also going to be playing Gorr to be able to steal their Gorr. So you have 2 different Gorrs potentially on the board. You also have Shadow King as an on reveal, Nico as an on reveal. You have Rogue, if Rogue misses, as an on reveal, Wave as an on reveal. Blob is another on reveal for Gorr as well. So like there's a bunch of different ins and outs with this list to help Gorr get big, but like you don't want to have Gorr necessarily as your primary win con. You can, but like I think more realistically, you're having Gorr as like just an alternate way to slam power at the end. That's why we haven't teched into this Thanos list. The next list we have is going to be an absolute power, which is a Mr. Negative list, which makes a lot of sense. It makes sense because you can Taskmaster your Gorr. You have Mystique for your Gorr. You can play Zola on your Gorr. If you play Zola on your Gorr as one of the last on reveal situations, that can give you some additional null value too. So there's a couple different just ins and outs with this list, whether you're wanting to Taskmaster, Sage value, or Taskmaster null value, Taskmaster Gorr value. Like there's so many different ways you can just go around doing this. And it is Mr. Negative. It just feels like a great home. And like I was saying earlier, it makes Gorr a 0-cost card and has 6 power to start, which is also really solid. And then with our next list here, we got a little cheeky, okay? So if you guys know, I am a very avid Pixie enjoyer. So we have a Pixie Gorr list over here with a bunch of different on reveals. We do get some Ironland value as well. Lady Deathstrike to be able to kill some of these other, cards that people are playing right now. People are still playing a bunch of kind of 3 or less powered cards, even though we are in a certain meta. This helps you also kill like US agents and stuff, kill Fenris Wolves. A bunch of different options here, a lot of unreveal stuff, cheat out cards early. You can also thin out your deck with Malekith. You have Anti-Venom to make cards cost 0 and have 0 power. A 0 cost Gorr sounds incredible. A 0 cost Goliath is also great, and you have Shadow King to reset your cards. You have Luke Cage also to stabilize your cards that have gotten hit by your Anti-Venom as well. It just feels incredible in this kind of situation. But let's look at what we got for this Spotlight Week. So this Spotlight Week is very interesting because it is a very good Series 5 card in Gorr, brand new series, 6-cost card. And then we have Legion and we have Havoc. So I think as this goes as a whole, I still do think this is a competitive week when it comes to Gorr and Legion. Havoc is not as competitive as these other 2 cards, does not receive as much play. It is not necessarily a bad card, though. It is an all-right card. I would say there's definitely more niche instances for this, but I would say Legion is a very good, flexible Series 4 card. Shout out to Docty. We know Docty loves Legion as well. I think Gorr is going to be very flexible, and he has a lot of different ways to be very powerful, so he boosts up the week. Variants. I think the variants are really creative. I actually really like how just wild they are. I think the Gorr looks awesome. The Legion is super trippy and cool. The Havoc is solid. So I think creative-wise, I like the variants. I would say if you are missing Havoc, this does not make this a must-open week for you. I think Gorr is a card you must have. I think that overall. But I think the other 2 cards aren't as must-have. Legion's kind of on the borderline yes, no. But Gorr, if you have the tokens and you'd rather spend tokens, I would spend tokens probably over just opening spotlights for him, because it just gets in a pickle, especially if you open the first 2 and then you have to at least go 4 deep, you know? And then, of course, talking about Gorr overall, he is a Series 5 card, so he is 6k tokens. I think this card is incredibly flexible. I think this doesn't just have one home. I think this literally can go in almost anything. I think it's got a lot of different on reveals in the game that can just really benefit from this. I would say what I've been seeing from other people are seeing he's flexible, but they aren't seeing him as being like the most flexible card ever, right? But I think this card like is going to hold up, and I think it's going to be everywhere. Like, you're going to see it. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be able to win games. It's not necessarily you have to build a whole deck around this card, but this is going to be a good card. Every single time we have a brand new Series 5 6-cost card, besides HULKLING, don't think about HULKLING. HULKLING doesn't exist. It becomes a meta-defining card. And I'm thinking of Blob. I'm thinking of Goliath. I'm thinking of Gorr now. Like, it's just crazy. Maybe you go even higher. You're thinking about Mockingbird now as a 6-drop. You know, like Sasquatch maybe isn't as meta-defining, but it is still getting there, right? So like, this feels really good. I'm very excited for this card. I would say there is a point where this card could get readjusted. I would not be surprised if this card does potentially receive a nerf in the future. Like, I feel like this is one of those cards that if it is performing really well, they'll have to tune it, like they did Blob, like they did Goliath multiple times. So, like, just keep that in mind when you do buy the card. It is possible for it to get tuned, but this is a buy for me. Definitely get this card, especially if you have the resources. And then final reminders, of course, is, you know, it's safe definitely to wait a couple days to get a new card, especially if you are low in resources, before truly just diving in and maybe getting the feels bad moment. So definitely wait and see what people have created, see what other people are thinking about the card before you fully invest into it. We've been wrong about cards. I've definitely been wrong about cards before, so definitely keep that in mind. And then sometimes they don't work as well as we thought. And then, yeah, great cards get nerfed, horrible cards get buffed. So we also have series drops coming out in December too, so maybe you want to save your resources for series drops. We'll be finding out more info about that on Monday. So very excited for that. But yeah, you guys have been absolutely incredible. Thank you guys so much. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed the first one. And yeah, I really appreciate it. All the support recently is amazing. You guys are awesome. If you guys do enjoy the video, again, definitely feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. I think we're going to be doing 2 buy or bust next week. I think we got Galacta, and then we also got Luna Snow, if it holds up the same way it does. But yeah, you guys are absolutely fantastic. I love you all. Until the next time, God bless. Say goodbye to the kitty, and Tucker out.